were talking about having a voice and why it's important to have a voice in different places. I thought this was a really interesting article, Nancy, about how important it is to have Black scientists and Black researchers
Yeah,
in roles having to do with autism research.
right. And
Um,
we've got a Spectrum News, which
yeah,
oftentimes has very interesting articles.
I love them. I think that they're doing a really good job over there. I will say that this particular article is written by Desiree Jones, who's a graduate student at University of Texas at Dallas, along with David Mandel, who's the professor of psychiatry and pediatrics at the University of Pennsylvania. Um, and I found it really interesting as they were talking about, in light of last week, if you guys recall, we were doing a study about the fact that genetically they've just started to look at the genome of individuals whose descent is from Africa, because so much of the human genome that's been mapped has been from people who are European. And that this whole 23andMe and how, like, I just did this for the first time. I just did my 23andMe, and that predominantly it's people who are of European descent who have been doing it. So most of the data that they've been collecting is about that. And they just did the first big research of a genome that is based that originates in Africa, and found over 4 million new variants that point to autism.
Right.
Or, I mean, for a week, I've just been like, how could, like, we have to stop systemic racism everywhere. And I'm going to say that, I am as blind as a person can be, and that I need to be educated constantly because I don't see what I don't see. But I found this very eye-opening, this article about how important it was, because if we don't have researchers who will be looking for this, we're going to miss it.
Right.
So I loved that it's, first of all, it outlines what the issue is, what they're asking for, and then it gives all of us very specific things that we need to do. And I found this that section of the article really important, about creating inclusive environments at every workplace, not just in research, and about how important it is that when you see microaggressions and when you see things, to support and not always expect for it to be your teammates who are, and I found this to be true, and they were saying this is very true for the autism community, but it's also true for our both people who are of color, on the spectrum and off the spectrum, that we need to start living this in everything that we do. And I found it very inspirational and very enlightening, and great article.
It is a
Uh,
good article. And unless we can make some of these changes, we're going to see Black children underrepresented in autism research.
well, and they already are, and they're
Right.
underdiagnosed, and the
Right.
studies show clearly. We all know what it's like when we went to the pediatrician and we stood there and said, "I think something is going on here," and that we were poo-pooed.
Yeah, they're
And
underdiagnosed and they're diagnosed at a much later age as well.
yes. But my point is that you and I know we stood there and we were poo-pooed. And
Right.
so I go, well, autism moms are poo-pooed. Well, they're telling us in their research that if you or I had darker skin, we would have been poo-pooed longer and more stringently.
Right.
And that to me makes me nuts.
Yeah.
Like, we have to be able to be in solidarity on this and say, this is not okay, on any level. And if people can't get as excited about the idea of turning this around, from a humanitarian standpoint, because I don't know about you, but it churns my stomach. I remember when Jem was diagnosed, and I realized how we were going to get help,
Hmm.
and that we were going to be able to start services, and that the state of California was going to be able to pay for it. And I had been praying for something, help me, help me, help me, help me. And I felt so lost. And then when I saw clearly that we had a path towards him being better, all I could think was, are you kidding me? The only reason why I get this is because I live in the state of California.
Hmm.
That can't be right. How can that be? There's a mom in Kansas who feels exactly the way I do, and she doesn't get it. She doesn't get to have that prayer answered just because of where she lives. We'll
Right.
add on to that, and for me, it wasn't, because I live in the state of California, it wasn't about money, but for a lot of people, it was about money. Before California was covering it,
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't have enough money, your kid couldn't be treated. But now add into that, we've always known if you couldn't speak English, you were less likely to get it. And I think we've known for a long time that if the hue of the melatonin in your skin was different, then as a mom, you weren't going to get what your child needed. We just have to stop this. And it does mean having people in the roles that can bring it up. And you and I know this, Nancy, like we are women, and
Mm-hmm.
we have been in the room when men were talking about things and they were going to do something a certain way, but in our lifetime there was a woman in the room, and the woman raised her hand and said, I don't think you're looking at it, I think you want to look at it this way. Now sometimes those women were mansplained, but sometimes women dug in and said, we have a different point of view. We're seeing it differently than you are, and it's an important point of view. We cannot leave anybody behind. Not in autism. It's the right thing to do morally. It's the right thing to do for humanity, but it's also the right thing to do for all of our kids. If you don't want to know what the whole picture of autism is, we're going to miss the boat. You want to help your children, this is the right way to go. So I loved this article. I thought it was really great.
Everybody.
Sometime
Okay,
I'd
go ahead.
love to have this young woman on the show too, Desiree Jones. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.